This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, this is Lee Byerly. On behalf of the Tide training team, I'd like to present you video 4, linking menus and bundles, creating a new menu item. Today we're going to introduce a way to make a new menu item from a saved bundle. We're going to use METAR station plots as our example. So to do this, we're going to take a display that we like and save it off, export it, and then we're going to use a keyword search to help us find where to place that bundle in a menu item. Then we'll edit an existing menu item. We'll bring in the bundle file back to AWIPS2. And then we're going to show substitution keys in the menu and bundle configuration. So these are ways to make a bundle usable across many different menu items. So we'll do that. And then we'll learn that there's some nuances with this. It's not always so clear and cut and dry. So we have to do a little searching. One way to demonstrate that is to look how these concepts apply to making a menu item with GFE data. So we'll run through that as well. So let's just go ahead and get right into it here on slide 3. So let's say you've pulled up a display and you like the display, but you need to make some modifications to it using the dialog box and some edit attributes. And then you want to save that off, but you don't want to save it permanently at the location where it is. You want to put in a new menu item. So we're going to hop over to AWIPS, and I'm assuming and hoping you have the slides to this presentation with you. If you don't, please contact me. My info is at the end of the briefing, and we'll get you those slides. For now, we're going to be in AWIPS, and we'll resume the slideshow on slide 9. So let me escape out of here and go to Cave. All right, so looking at observations, if we go to the OBS menu, click on Station Plots, you should see some plots come up on the display. We see a bunch of station plots here. Let's say we want to make some changes to that. So, first of all, what are we looking at? We have wind barbs, we have temperatures in red, dew points in green. You can see the temperatures are a little bit bigger than the dew points. So let's go and investigate that. So let's make some customization using the edit plot attributes. So I'll bring up that dialog box. And we won't go into a lot of detail here on this, but this is an SVG file that lives in AWIPS. And this box allows us to make changes on the fly. You can see you can change the text, you can change the position of the particular item. You see a little example here. So if I want to change the temperature or any particular field, if I click on it, then these areas light up. It shows the color, the temperature, for instance, is in red. Let's say I want to get back to the default size of 16. So I can click apply. Without even closing the box, you can see my temperature values change to a font that's smaller than they were before. Let's go back to say 18 or even 22. Let's go back to 22. We click apply. And okay, so we've done our edits. Now, one of the interesting things here about this particular tool is if we clear and come back, the display will stay the same. So those changes go into effect for all, oops, wrong one there. Those changes go into effect for all of your display. And even if I were to exit Cave and come back, my changes have been saved at my user level. So that's a nice feature. Let's go ahead and save this off because we want to make a new menu button. So we'll go to Cave, export. Okay, so you're given a lot of options here. The really important one is to go to Editor Display. Click on that. Before we do it though, let's say we want to change our name of our display. We can rename the tab. Let's call it My METARs or something like that. So if we rename the tab and then export the display, when we bring it in later, our tab name will still be there. So that's a nice way to see that your changes have gone into effect. So let's go export, editor display, and then we give it a name. It's going to go to my home directory. So in this case, we'll give it a name. Let's just use a name that I used earlier for preparation. So you give it this name, you click save. and it saves into your home directory. It's not in AWIPS, it's just in your home directory on your system.
And Lee, why would they choose editor display instead of the perspective display option?
Yeah, so if you want to save, let's say you had several different displays and you wanted to save the entire instance of your display, that's where you would save the perspective display. We don't want to do that here because we're just interested in a single item, which is those METARs. So we just want that editor. If we do the perspective display, what that does is it saves a series of bundles because it's saving off everything you might have displayed here, any other tabs. Let's say you have things displayed up in the box here for this view. It's going to save all of that. And you don't want to do that here because we're just doing one menu item, one bundle. Okay, so we've saved off our file, but it's not in AWIPS. Let's now go and figure out where we want to put this particular item so that it's a menu button. So let's go over to slide 9. Okay, where are we going to add this menu item? Let's look at slide 10. We can pull this up in AWIPS too, but let's say we want to go under the local, and we already have built out for this particular display from Hurricane Center a series of menu items. And let's say we want to add our menu item right here above the word standard. Fortunately for AWIPS and localization, there's a search tool. And we can search for a keyword that'll get us, hopefully, to our menu item so that we can start making changes. Okay, so let's go back. And we'll go into the localization perspective. Okay, under the file browser section, we want to go under Cave. And we would have a whole mountain of things to look in, right? Maybe we know to start menus, but really this is very complicated. So this is where the search tool comes in. So if you, and so currently I'm going to pick back up on slide 15. So this material really takes us up to slide 15. Let's do a search by content. Okay, so we decided we want to put our item above standard in that METAR section. We need to give it a file extension. These are XML files. Case sensitive does matter because we want a capital S. And we want to look under Cave. So if we click on this search, we get a search section here on the far right. Let me pull that out. Kind of opens up. And you can see it's making its matches now. And here are all the matches where standards found. We don't care about LMA, right? Because we care about, well, we care about the local section, right? Because we want our menu item under local observations, like we saw in that graphic on slide 10. So we know we want observations and surface. So if we click back over here, local. Okay, so there's really nothing else to choose from. I don't know where this inset comes from, but let me just keep looking. Obs. We found an XML file here. That's good. Let's unclick that. It's at the site, so a site localization change was made. And then if we open this up, we get a bunch of matches. So you can see the word standard, and it's menu text too. That's important because menu text is a tag where you assign the menu button. So let's just take one of these and double click on it. See what happens. It actually will open up the menu file for us. And I know this might be hard to see. It's a little bit bigger in the slideshow, but let's go here. Not only does this file open where we see the word standard, let's just focus here on standard, but it shows us where this file is. So it's under this OBS, under the file browser, there's a site localization to it. So that's great. We found where we want to add our menu items. So let's just double check this. We have standard, surface, plot, hurricane. You see these menu texts. Let's just double check over in D2D. Got local, observations, surface, METAR. Please ignore this one because that's what we are going to make. But before this is added, this is the baked cake here. Standard, surface, plot, hurricane. So we know we're operating on the correct XML file. So that's good news. So how would we go ahead and add our new item? Well, first of all, let's not worry so much about adding the menu button. Let's get the bundle into Aweps because we saved it off a few minutes ago. And we really need to figure out where we want to put our bundle. And this gives us the key. Notice that all the bundles live under this bundles NCEP data OBS directory. So we want to put it there because we're going to make a new one of these, lines 21 through 27. We're going to make a brand new one of these. We're going to copy and paste it above and give it a new name. The key item here, though, is to import our bundle into this area here. So let's go and find this directory path. So how do we do that? We're going to go back up to Cave, go to Bundles, and then we want to look for the subdirectory NCEP data. Let's go to that. It's way down here. NCEP data. And then OBS. So we go under OBS here. Okay. So I have a bunch of XMLs in here. They're bundle files. I want to add ours. So I'm going to right click, import file, and then I navigate. It fortunately goes to my home directory, and here's my bundle. I can go ahead and open that up here. And once I open it up, you can see it appears directly into our directory path. I can click down here. There's a site instance. Now, had I actually accepted the import, it would have made a user instance for me. It would have made a separate one. Right now, we have the site one here on the system. So let's just open that. And you have a bunch of information on your bundle now. So there's a bunch of information here that we'll get into next to make our menu item. So let's go ahead and add in our new menu item. So just demonstrating that, we would copy our item here. We would paste it here, lines 13 through 19, which just for brevity, I have it pasted already. And then I have to give my new menu button a name for the menu text. So I just call it Training Custom. And then here we go. We're pointing at our new imported bundle file. If we save this off, file save, and we close out Cave and come back to Cave and open up our menu item, we can test whether or not this works. So let's say we did close out Cave and we came back into Cave. Because those changes require a Cave restart, unlike our plot attributes changes, which did it on the fly. We go into local, NCEP data, observations, surface, METAR, and then there's our menu button. All we did was imported that save display. You can see the My METARs is there because I gave the tab a new name. The font size is a little bigger. But this just gives out the file names and the paths of our training custom button that we made. So that's a good reference item potentially for later. But now let's take a look at slide 16. We talked about importing our bundle and we figured out how to import it. And we did that through the search tool. And of course, after we did the search tool to find the menu item, we found that our bundle needed to be imported here under Bundles, NCEP Data, OBS. And of course, it started off with standard and we edited that. So we were doing things at either the site or the user level. Typically, you want to do things at your user level. And just demonstrating again, we pasted. So this slide shows that we pasted in our item. We gave it a new name. So now let's go into slides 18 through 20. Right now, underneath our item that we pasted, you might have seen here a bunch of substitute keys. And we really didn't do anything with those, right? We just copied and pasted standard and put it above and restarted Cave, and our training custom showed up. It turns out you can reuse these bundles, and for standardization, you can take the bundles here and edit them so that you can use substitution keys inside that bundle file. And that's what these keys are. Keys are used for things that vary and that you may want to update over and again, such as the density of the display, how zoomed in it is, the time offsets, what kind of report it is. So let's look at that in a little bit more detail. So if we look at a portion of our bundle file, the one that we imported into NCEP Data OBS, you can see it has a bunch of information about the density, right? It says 1, the magnification is 1, the report type is METAR, and so forth. What we want to do is specify strings for these values. And so let's walk through that carefully in the next slide. Now this is really busy, so we'll just take one example. So up here in the top left, you have our menu file. Remember, it has those keys. And to the right, in some of these boxes, we have the pictures of the bundle itself. So let's just take, for instance, the purple and the raspberry, or the violet color here. Let's say you have an offset time of 1800 and a negative offset time of 1800. This is just the default that was in your display when you saved it. But we can change it. So if we go over here to our bundle, the 1800 are locked in and hardwired into our bundle because that was the setting in our AWIPS Cave display when we hit the save button, right? But what we want to do is we want to edit not the menu item, because the menu item has a bunch of keys. At the moment, we'd want to edit the bundle file and put in these strings. So for neg offset, instead of 1800, we put in this $n offset string. Same thing for pos offset, right? So if you go up here, you have keys. We made these key names ourselves. I mean, we can modify them as we like. And then the values, we have some ability to change those. Let's say I wanted to save, only an hour of data at a time. So instead of being, or let's say I only wanted to save 30 minutes of data at a time. I wanted to click through and get 30 minutes worth of data, right? So I would make this 900 seconds, and this one would be 900 seconds. And that together would be a half-hour offset. This is currently a half an hour, 1800 seconds, and a half an hour. So it gives us an hour click per click. Because let's say we wanted to save it now with this n offset and pos offset string, we can go into the menu item, put in our new values, maybe a higher magnification, and then save it and restart Cave, because we need to restart Cave whenever we make changes to the menus or the bundles. So lots of detail here. That's just one example. Remember, we saved the bundle after making changes, and then we can reopen it, and then we'd have our improved bundle item. So here's a snapshot of our saved bundle. There are several keys that we added. Our density is now a $ density. Our magnify is a $ magnify, and those are the substitute keys that we use in the menu items. So lots of information there, lots of substitutions going on. One of the things we have to be careful of in this sort of thing is it's not necessarily going to jump out to us every single time. So for instance, let's say we're over in our search and we do a search here. You know, maybe we got lucky here. Maybe we'd have to dig a little bit deeper on what to find. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And so that's one reason why we wanted to bring along this idea of creating menu items from GFE data, because it uses the same concepts, but the way to get to your data and to save your display is a little bit different. So I'm going to spend the next few minutes going through that, and we'll wrap up. So let's go back into our slideshow here. Okay, so we're a little familiar now with taking that item and making a menu button. In the case of GFE data, which is the model data using the graphical forecast editor, that data comes into AWIPS, and by default, there are no menu items, right? It's used for GFE, so you don't have D2D menu items with GFE data unless we do what we're going to show here.
And it's nice to have that, so that way you can see what you've drawn and then have those D2D data sets plotted with it as well.
By the way, there's some product browser slides that are linked here in the presentation that give more information. Let's go through that here briefly. So Here's a forecast product from Hurricane Center. It's wave heights, and we had to use the product browser to find it. So we'd go under right-clicking the wave height and then the surface, and then we would export the display to save it as a file. So this is saved, and we're going to return to that. So let's see how we did it. Okay, just as a reminder, we'd go Cave, Data Browser, Product Browser. Pops up there under GFE, and then you find your forecast item. You click on it, and once it's on the screen, we save it off. And that's saved into our directory, as we saw before with the METARs. Okay, so let's assume we have a menu structure already, which NHC has a very nice one started here under the local button. So local, GFE grids, Pacific, and then you have a forecast database. Let's say we wanted to add or customize some GFE products like have been done here with the wave heights. First, we find our path, which is obvious here. Then we have a series of configuration files that govern what we see, right? There are 3 of them, A, B, and C. We could find that in localization like we did before under local NCEP in the menu section. You have a bunch of menu items. Let's walk through those real briefly. Let's start off with A. So our goal here is to find out where to put our bundle, but it also, we need to find out where to put those substitution keys. Okay, so getting a little busy here. Let's start with the first one. We have an NCEP GFE menu XML. That's right here. Okay, it turns out in that XML file, you have a submenu and a file name. So basically what we're doing is we're tracing things down, and as we trace through things, we find these substitution keys. So here you have a substitution key of site with a value of NH1. And then all this is say, hey, here's a submenu which has more information in it, which is NCEP GFE grids by database. Okay, so NCEP GFE grids by database is letter B, which is basically going to get us the information that goes in this menu item here on this slide. So let's keep tracing. All we're really doing now is finding our substitution keys so we can add them to our exported display. Here's another key, value equals forecast, and another file name, NCEP GFE grids by parameter. If we keep tracing that further, you can see that this bundle has a few more keys, parameter and color. Not only does it have all of these keys in it, it finally points us to a bundle file, right? That's what we're looking for because we exported our display and we know that our display needs to go into the NCEP data directory. So the purpose of these purple boxes is to define a bunch of key parameters that we have for our display so that they can be used in the bundle. So it turns out there are 4 substitution keys needed for this bundle file right here. How do we know that? Okay, so we have 2 right here. Those are going to be used in this bundle. If we crack open this bundle, though, there are 4 different substitution keys and we only have 2 of them. So how do we get the others? The way we got those is by tracing through the entire menu structure. Everywhere we see those pink dashed boxes are substitution keys. So here are the other 2. There's one right here, and there's one right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's look at the bundle. And sure enough, if we were to look at the bundle, now this represents a completed product that's been edited and updated. So to create this bundle with substitution keys, first we had to select it from the product browser and export it and then make these changes. So these colors were added. So color is string equals color. Another one is plugin, is database is the model. The parameter ID is whatever you have for the database string. So if we looked at our one of our raw menu items, let's see here, database was given a value of forecast. Okay.
Lee, can you go back for a second? So one of the nice things about having very basic bundles and doing the substitution keys that are shown in the pink dashed boxes is, if you'll notice on the top tab, this bundle name is called NCEP GFE Grid Contour Image. So basically, this was set up to show both contours and an image in the background in the display. But with the substitution keys, if you know that you're not going to be doing anything else special to this particular bundle and the data display, then with the substitution keys, you can just use this bundle over and over as a rinse and repeat, which is why we made the parameter a variable with the substitution keys. So basic scalar things that will have a contour slapped on top of them. You can just keep reusing this particular bundle. Also, it's not boxed, but a thing to know is because we're doing the GFE data example within D2D, if you'll notice the key equals plugin name, particularly for the GFE data, the plugin name is called GFE, where you may not notice this for other data that's readily in D2D. So I just wanted to point that out before we moved on.
Thank you, Monica. And that actually goes as well for other types of parameter levels, which can be used as a substitution key. Like in this case, it's the surface. And really appreciate you pointing that out, because it reminded me of another thing. We have this color here. There might be, let's say this color is red. There might be another portion in this bundle where your color that was saved was green. So your color string would be like color 2 or something like that. You'd have to have a new substitution key that you put in the menu item. So making these from scratch may require some extra investigation and testing, saving, restarting Cave. So this particular bundle represents something that we just manually exported earlier. You can see it just picked up on the plugin name, forecast, wave height. And so as Monica mentioned, let's say you want this to be wind speed or something else. And this just represents a little bit more of what we were describing before. These are our four substitution keys, and we would update this bundle with that $ bracket substitution to make it a substitution key, and then update the menu item. So in summary, we've edited an existing menu file today to make a new menu item using the METAR plots. There's a METAR plot station model job sheet for more details. The process we talked about could be used for adding any item, and we saw that when we did the GFE data. So we exported the data to a D2D display. We used the keyword search to find out where we'd put the menu item. And so then we edited that existing menu item to add in our new feature. In order to make that displayable, we had to import the bundle file into the AWIPS2 directory structure, which we found looking at the menu item where it would go under the bundles directory path. And those substitution keys are really important for standardization, efficiency, saving off several different parameters. As you can see, the GFE menu structure had a lot of fields in it, a lot of products. So it's great to be organized, not only in how you do the bundles, but in the naming of the files too. So these are some key takeaways. We do the hard work up front, but this is foundational for future edits. And localization has a lot of power in giving us the information to make those changes. But also it's important that we don't change those base configurations, so we can do changes at the site level, at the user level, and then they won't go into effect for everyone. So the bundle content updates at the user localization. So this was the case for the attribute plots that we did. So those user items changed, and we saw that whether we cleared the display or even closed cave, those METAR changes went into effect immediately with those changes in the SVG file, which lives within the bundles. Just want to remind you of previous Tide presentations. They're linked here. And we thank you for attending. Please contact us if we can help. And we hope to see you next time.